Ready to soundtrack your summer? With Red Bull Summer All Day Play, you choose a playlist that fits your summer vibe the best. Are you a festival fanatic, a deep-end DJ, a road dog, or a trail mixer? Just add a song to your chosen playlist and put your summer on track. Red Bull Summer All Day Play. Red Bull gives you wings. Visit redbull.com/brightsummer ahead to learn more. See you this summer.
Good morning, it's Wednesday, May 13, and this is the Brussels Playbook podcast. The vibe in Brussels today is restructuring anxiety.
Is that a vibe?
It is today, Ian, because one of the Commission's biggest and oldest departments might be heading for the bin. Also on the pod, Friedrich Merz has been German Chancellor for a year now, and things are going from bad to worse. And the European Commission wants to make it easier to travel across Europe by train. That's exciting. I'm Zoya and with me today is Ian Wishart. Hi, Ian.
Hi, Zoya. Did I see you on the picket line yesterday in the general strike in Belgium?
You saw me walking past the picket line on my way to work because you're a slave driver, Ian.
You're selfish.
Well, listen, let's start with this super interesting story that Gerardo Fortuna, our colleague on the Brussels Playbook, has broken this morning. So one of the European Commission's oldest, richest, biggest, most powerful departments might be heading for a pretty significant overhaul, maybe even the trash can. That's DG REGIO, Ian.
Yeah, this is the department in the European Commission that dishes out a lot of the EU funds, actually hundreds of billions of euros to the various regions around Europe, but a lot of the poorer regions in particular, which is traditionally what EU subsidies has been used for. But it looks like there is some restructuring underway, or certainly some ideas that it might be restructured.
Yeah, that's right. And we've been picking up this chatter for a while now that's kind of reached fever pitch. Basically, there is this view among some in Brussels, and that view goes all the way to the top floor of the Parlement here, that the DG REGIO is kind of, it's old, it's bloated, people there aren't very responsive or reactive to things, and that they kind of just hand out checks to member states to use how they wish.
And they're comparing it with how the Commission dished out the money for the COVID recovery funds, which was done by a different department. But that, I think, was seen as much more streamlined, much more efficient. And that seems to be the reason that people are giving for this to happen.
That's right. That's DG Reform. That was the new department that was created in the wake of the COVID pandemic.
And that comes under the SecGen, doesn't it?
Yeah. And so it's very nimble. It's young. It's got really good processes in place as people see it, as its supporters see it. And it's a little bit more, shall we say, careful about how it hands out funds. And the other thing is that those funds can be held back for political reasons because, as you say, it's run under the SecGen.
Yeah, it's more to this than meets the eye. There's a lot of politics involved here, isn't there? This is sort of speaks to a wider sense of how mood is shifting, times are changing, politics are changing within the European Commission.
That's right. That's right. And there's a few things being considered. So one idea is this idea of merging DG REGIO and DG Reform, and then it would become one with the DG Reform rules and regulations and the way that it hands out money. There's also this idea of maybe setting up this super department called DG Invest. That's what Gerardo has been hearing. And they might have underneath that umbrella literally all of the money that the Commission hands out to regions and for various projects. So that would be pretty massive.
There'll be a lot of people unhappy about this. I mean, apart from the people who work in DG REGIO itself and have worked there for a long time, but the regions that a lot of the EU is pinned on and has been for decades will see this very much as a watering down of their importance and significance. And will be worried about a lack of money coming their way.
Yeah, and they've already been complaining about this. We've been, again, hearing some complaints from people like in the Committee of the Regions and elsewhere who are saying, look, when the Commission takes over like this, when it becomes political, when they merge various different pots of money into one, it means that cohesion, regions, etc., they might miss out. And the thing to remind people of, I mean, we've talked about it on this podcast before, the cohesion funding is super important because that's the funding that's meant to equalize the living standards of poor regions with those of rich ones.
I mean, you see it in, brand new motorways being built, brand new bridges being built in areas of Europe which has traditionally been quite deprived.
Yeah, totally. And you also see it in schools and hospitals. So it really does touch people's lives. It's both when you look at the poorer regions within certain countries and also the poorer countries within the EU. So it is an important set of principles that exist.
And you can imagine, therefore, that the less well-off countries will fight against this.
Yeah, absolutely. So this one is super interesting. Now, in terms of timing, what we're looking at is probably a decision being made really now-ish.
I was really surprised at this. They're not going to wait, by the sounds of things, if this goes according to some people's plan, they're not going to wait until the next term of the European Commission necessarily, are they? It can come sooner than that.
No, and it's because of the timing with the MFF, the multi-annual financial framework. That's, for you and me, the EU's long-term budget. Now, the current budget is due to expire at the end of 2027. The new one starts up in 28. But the thinking around how to spend the money, that's being done right now. There's decisions being made right now. And as part of those decisions, the question will be, where do we spend our money? Where do we send it? Which DGs stay? Which ones go? Which ones get merged? So it's really a decision that might be made within the next year.
You can also see it, though, and maybe I'm talking from a level of certain ignorance here, but you can see it feeding into some of the debate around the MFF, that's a 7-year budget, negotiations. You can see it feeding into that because a lot of that is, where do we put priorities for funding? Do we put it into the regions, or do we put it more into the hands of central government or directly from the European Commission?
Absolutely. And we'll see probably the same sort of criticism of this move as we see for other moves, where I think member countries would probably say this is a bit of a Commission power grab. The Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, the President, trying to bring more control, more Commission guardrails around spending. Member states will want that money directly because then they can direct the money wherever they go. But critics of that approach say, hey, that leads to sweetheart deals, that leads to inefficiencies. We should bring all of this under central control.
Good. Well, Zoya, we're sometimes quite light-hearted when we ask people to WhatsApp us with their opinions on various things. But I think actually this would be quite nice to hear from people, particularly people working in the European Commission, about what they've heard, what they fear, what they think might be the future direction of things in the Commission. I think that would be quite an interesting thing for people to WhatsApp us on our number.
Absolutely. And anonymity guaranteed. Just tell us what you think, what you're hearing, and we will not use your names if you'd rather we didn't. Or we can use your names if you'd rather we do. All right, folks, second story. Germany's Friedrich Merz, he's been in power for just a little bit over a year now.
Is that all? It seems long, doesn't it?
It feels like 10 years, Ian. Do you remember Scholz?
I remember Merkel.
So do I. Anyway, shall we get back on track, Ian? Let's get back to our friend Friedrich Merz. His polling numbers, Ian, I don't think I've seen anything like this in Germany maybe ever. 86% of people are unhappy with the current coalition government, according to the latest Deutschland Trend survey. 24% think Merz can turn the economy around. 14% think he communicates effectively.
Well, the thing is, I mean, looking at sort of the commentary around this, both in Germany and here in Brussels, and the people who know him and work with him, they all seem to say he doesn't do politics very well. And he seems to be quite prickly, and he seems to just not know when to keep quiet, and actually he can be quite candid and say what's on his mind, and that kind of worked quite well when he was in business, but perhaps doesn't work quite so well when he's a politician, let alone leader of a big country.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, the situation in Germany is pretty stark. Things aren't looking good economically. We've all been talking about industrial decline in Germany, the fact that the car manufacturing industry isn't keeping up with rivals from China. I mean, unemployment in Germany at this point is the highest level it's been since 2020. It's 6.4%, above 3 million people unemployed. And industrial production, it fell again in March. And the government cut its 2026 growth forecast again to just 0.5%.
And the thing is, the previous chancellor, Scholz, really had a bad reputation, and Merz came in as sort of the big saviour they thought was going to sort everything out. And it's quite dramatic how quickly his star has fallen. There does seem to be parallels with Keir Starmer in the UK, where everybody thought, or a lot of people thought, that Labour would sort things out and Starmer would be the next great thing. But within 2 years, he's now also seen the same as Merz, as like not good at politics and actually not somebody who can save the country economically or politically. It does beg the the question, in these big countries, can anybody do the job anymore?
Well, it is a great question, and I think Germany has been flailing for a good leader or a solid leader for a while now. Merz has been trying to get the project back on the road. He's been doing the tour of Germany. I mean, he got booed yesterday at the German Trade Union Confederation annual congress. It was like repeatedly happening to him. It's really, really grim.
He's been doing a tour of the country, trying to sort of reset his chancellorship a year on. And he keeps getting asked things like, what has actually improved for Germany since you took office? And he doesn't seem to have much of an answer. He was asked that once, and his answer was, we help save NATO. That doesn't really talk to people, talk to the person in the street. It seems that's not what people want to hear.
Look, there was an event in Salzwedel in eastern Germany where a woman with skin cancer said that her high healthcare costs were out of control and compared her living situation with politicians on high salaries, and Merz kind of snapped back at her and made him look really awful.
And of course he said that thing about how the US was being humiliated by Iran, and suddenly that ends his attempts at getting a good relationship, which had been quite successful with Donald Trump.
Yeah, and let's not forget he said that to a group of school children, so...
And the big winner, of course, is Alternative for Deutschland, the far-right party, which seems to have its polling going up and up and up.
Absolutely. I mean, at this point, they're polling above Merz's Conservatives. So that's kind of an interesting development. And there's a vote in September in Saxony-Anhalt, and the AfD is on 41%, Ian.
And Merz keeps saying, well, democracy takes time, reforms take time, coalition politics takes time, but people don't seem to be very patient these days, do they? You see that everywhere. It's not just there in Germany. You see it, as I said, in the UK, but also around Europe. People just don't have patience to see the improvements that they want to see.
Yeah, particularly when you've got parties at the fringes that are offering quick solutions and easy answers. So certainly it's not looking good for Friedrich. Ian, when was the last time you did a big rail journey?
I frequently do big rail journeys, actually.
What was the last one?
I went to Germany on the train not so long
nice.
ago. Yeah, went to Berlin.
I went to Ukraine. That was my last big
Of course, yeah.
train trip.
Of course, you have mentioned that once or twice, so yeah.
10, 20 times.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep mentioning it. Well, for our last story today, the Commission is going to unveil its passenger mobility package later today.
More interesting than it sounds, as usual. It's about getting tickets across Europe.
Exactly.
Why is it so complicated?
Oh, my God. Because there are so many companies, Ian. They all have their own platforms. They're all proprietary. They
Platforms.
don't... Oh, go on. Anyway, they've got lots of different systems, and basically what the Commission is saying, enough's enough. If you want to buy one ticket from one place to another, you should just be able to buy one ticket. You shouldn't have to buy 10 on different companies'
This
websites.
seems so simple and so obvious. It's almost like there's nothing to say about it.
But it isn't, Ian, because this is another one of those things. So it's kind of a sign of the EU helping you in your day-to-day life. It's like what they did with global roaming, where you can use your phone in any EU country.
But I just don't understand why it's so complicated and why it's taken to 2026 to say, oh, you're taking a train journey from, I don't know, Paris to Athens. I want to buy a ticket all the way through. I remember 20 years ago going interrailing and having to get off at Sofia where I was changing trains and having to get out a massive pile of cash of Bulgarian currency, which was the
Ruh-roh.
lev, and having to queue up for another ticket. That should have changed by now.
Yeah, and look, the Commission has been working on this plan for many, many years. They have had a proposal in the works, and they've just never been able to actually even get a proposal out there because of how difficult it's been. And it's because all of the companies, some of them privately owned, some of them state-owned, they have their own proprietary software. They don't want to have to pay a lot of money to standardize. It's a big deal for them. They've been pushing back. They've been campaigning to say, this is too expensive, too difficult. The Commission is now saying, we need to do something about this because we need to incentivize people to travel by rail.
Okay, and they're presenting something today, so we can look forward to seeing what that is.
I'm very excited about it, Ian. I'm looking forward to my next train trip. Ian, you weren't here yesterday, but we were talking about influencers, your favorite topic.
Thank the Lord I wasn't here.
We've been criticized for being a little mean to them, so
Really?
I won't have your cheek, please.
Okay.
Be nice.
I call you an influencer, Zoya.
Influencer of what? Jesus. Listen, I hope these influencers are more influential than I am. We got heaps of suggestions about influencers we could follow who are doing EU content. So Michaela from Czechia, she reckons, she's the one who thinks we're a bit too dismissive. Sorry, Michaela. She recommends Rosary Haskavtsova. She's a greenfluencer. Angie from France, she recommends YouTubers Hugo Decrypt and Gaspard G, who go into deep dives on politics and history. And Eleanor from Germany and Ian from the US, they recommend EU Made Simple, which are videos explaining complex EU things in a way that makes sense, and at TLDR News EU.
Don't we risk sending people to other things rather than listening to us if we carry on at this rate?
Uh-oh, you're right. Okay, everyone ignore everything I've just said. Influencers are terrible. We're the best.
And listen to our podcast instead.
Subscribe, like us, rate us, review us, tell your friends. Righto, Ian, we're off tomorrow because it's a public holiday here, but the Brussels Playbook Weekender is coming to you on Friday.
Can't wait.
Yeah, it's a new name, new brand, new music, very exciting stuff.